to a new episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone. That gentleman right there is Devin. And guess what we got up first for you guys? The Kobe coin. All right, what we got going on for the Kobe coin this week, of course, is two films. And what you guys probably don't know, we flipped for two movies, okay? And we let fate decide which one owned the Kobe coin. All right? And the movies this time is American Pickle, starring Seth Rogen, who's going to be on number 24 on the Kobe coin. And The Quick and the Dead, starring Gene Hackman from back in the day, Sharon Stone, a young Leonardo DiCaprio, and Russell Crowe when he was good.
He was about 60 pounds lighter.
Exactly. So we're about to flip for that right now.
Let's do it.
All right, ready? Movie that we are about to review is American Pickle.
Yes. It's the one I want.
What do you want, American Pickle, man? That's starring Seth Rogen. All right, we're gonna be reviewing that right now.
It's been 100 years. The pickle brine preserved him perfectly.
You're too old to lose that.
The world has changed. Everyone I know is gone.
You were able to track down a great grandson.
Green Bob.
This movie stars Seth Rogen and Seth Rogen. Okay, they play. He plays two characters at the same time, and it looks so seamlessly in the process. Where he plays Herschel Greenbaum and Ben Greenbaum. Herschel Greenbaum is the great grandfather. Ben Greenbaum is the great grandson. And this movie came out last year, man, on HBO Max. And when I initially saw it, I loved it because I love the concept. Concept of it is like it's an old Jewish dude from like the late 1800s, and he lives in this town. He is a ditch digger, and it just seems like,
yeah, he seems to live a really hard, very physical life.
Yeah.
Like if he does things with his hands, which is important later because he seems to approach things like with a lot of physicality.
A lot of rudeness, and not working this century, and we'll get to that too. But yeah, this movie starts off, man. He's living in, was it Poland?
No, I'm not sure if it's even a real country, but no, it wasn't Poland. It was some other European country.
Yeah, and
they were having problems with the Russians.
Yeah, and he meets this lady, and he says she has all her teeth.
Right. Top and bottom.
And he wanted to woo her, so he's like he sees she trying to buy this fish, so he went and like dug so many ditches and everything like that, and with his hands and because his shovel broke like twice, right. And then his cart broke. Right. It just has like some bad luck.
That's actually the shot that the movie starts on. It's him digging a ditch, and the arm of the shovel breaks, and then the actual shovel splits in half, and then he's like digging ditches with his hands.
Yeah. So he tries to impress her, and he comes up there, throws a quarter on the desk, and gives her the fish. The most disgusting thing she does. She's like, "Oh yes, you turned me on." And she bites the head of the fish off. And he was like, yeah. So they just started hanging out, and then they got things in common. He's like, your parents murdered, my parents murdered, and stuff like that. They became really close, and her dream is to be like so rich to have a gravestone, and
Right, they're really poor, like really, literally dirt poor, because he is a ditch digger.
Yeah.
So yeah, her big dream, kind of like in the last episode, was like 96,000. If they get a lot of money, if they get a lot of money, her big dream is to have a headstone, and it's like, dang, that's all you want?
Yeah.
It's a headstone.
And what was his dream again?
He wanted to drink seltzer water.
Yeah, bubbly.
Yeah.
Bubbly's on my tongue. And that was his big dream, and they went to a certain place to talk about that, and then they got married, and then the Russians
on their wedding day, the Russians came and burned down the town.
So
after the Russians burned down the town, they left the town and went to America.
Yeah, left the town, went to America, exactly. And that's when she got pregnant. And he basically was saying that he wanted his family to be strong and have a great future and all that in America. And he got a job working in the pickle factory, but
pickle factory
wasn't messing with the cucumbers or messing with the salt or anything like that. His job was to smash rats.
Right. So Seth Rogen at this point, he talks about the racism that the Jewish people experienced when they first came.
All right, let's get these dumb Polacks out of here.
Compared to Cossacks, Americans, very kind.
All right, this way, you filthy Jews. Let's go.
Right, like how they were just like shuttled through Ellis Island, and it's like, hurry up! They're being so rude, and they're like, oh, I got a job at a pickle factory, but I couldn't touch the cucumbers or the salt or the water, but I could go smash rats, and every 5 rats I smashed, I got a nickel or something like that.
Yeah. Until those rats started, bucking back on with some knock if you buck type of stuff. He was like, oh. And then he ended up tripping accidentally and falling into a vat of pickle brine. And
pickle brine.
And then at that moment, I kid you not, people, the factory got condemned and closed.
Attention! This factory has been condemned.
And nobody noticed him because he's like a nobody to them. And they just closed it. They just closed up the lid and they just left for 100 years. Like, disbelieve your mind that a human body will decay and die, without oxygen or whatever. But he went to like a comatose, okay? And
yeah, he was like in suspended animation or something. But this is where the movie was at its smartest, where it spends literally no time explaining this. No. It's explained off screen. He's like, a little bit later, he's like, oh, a scientist came and explained how I could have survived in pickle brine. Mm-hmm. His explanation was good, and everybody was satisfied, and that's it.
You don't honestly expect us to buy that, do you?
What's the science behind it?
Please, let me explain.
The scientist explains. His logic is good. It satisfies everyone.
Oh, yes.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. Very clear.
I thought that was really smart, really genius, and I really liked how they did not spend time explaining that. If this were a Marvel movie, the whole movie would be explaining how he survived in the pickle brine or something, But instead, they just breeze right over it because it's not important. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Looper, how they never explain the time travel. There's a character in Looper who's like, oh, how does the time travel work? And the other guy's like, shut up, it's not important. And it's like, oh, thank God,
I don't want to talk about time travel shit. Because if we start talking about it, then we're going to be here all day talking about it, making diagrams with straws. It doesn't matter.
When I hurt myself, it changes your body. This is what I do now, change your memory.
It doesn't matter!
And so we can all just know, a time machine works, move forward. And here, pickle brine will preserve you. Don't worry about how or why. It just does, moving forward. Genius. But I think that setup of that, such a smart setup of him like ignoring like that basic like explanation of how the pickle brine preserved him, all of that I thought was so smart, but it set me up to think that the rest of this movie was going to be as smart, and I don't think it was. So I'm a little. In hindsight, I was a little let down because I thought with that premise, I was like, oh man, we cooking, we going now. But the movie's a lot more simple than I thought it was.
It's very simple and sweet. You know.
Yep, it is sweet, but it's very simple.
Yeah. Actually, made me I'm a very sensitive person. Okay, I'm a Cancer. All right, don't get on me for having my emotions all out when I watch these movies. I know this is like the third movie I almost cried on.
Well, I gotta say, I expected it to be sweeter than it was, though. It didn't make me cry, and I didn't really feel much. And I think the reason why is because after Herschel, their great grandfather, and Ben meet, they get together, they meet up, and then after like a few cute scenes, they immediately hate each other, right. And they spend the bulk of the film trying to hurt each other.
Yeah. Actually,
they spend the entire runtime of the film trying to hurt each other until maybe the last moment of the last scene when they decide to work together. And so because of that, I had a hard time connecting with either character. I'm like, am I supposed to like Herschel because he's being an asshole? And then I'm like, am I supposed to like Ben because he's being an asshole too? Yeah. So I had a hard time connecting. I kind of wish that they butted heads. Like that part was shorter. It wasn't the whole movie. I kind of hope that was. I was kind of hoping that was just like
that they weren't
a small part of the film, and then they joined forces to go against some kind of other antagonist. But was there an antagonist in this film? Like who is that?
I don't know. I don't think. I think to hurt it was to people. It was to the antagonist in this film was different to each character. Like in the film, I guess. Ben's antagonist was his own self-doubt. Okay? And to Herschel's key was, you know, his antagonist was he doesn't have anybody anymore because he's over 100 years old. And his antagonist was, to me, is like, how do I, defeat this whole feeling?
But see, that seems... on the surface, that is kind of what it looks like, but we later learn that Ben doesn't have self-doubt, right? Because at first, that was what Herschel thought. That's why they didn't like each other. Yeah. Herschel thought Ben was weak, and because Ben has an app that he calls Boop Bop, and he wanted to release it, but he'd been working on it for 5 years. He hadn't released it. Herschel's like, "Why haven't you released your stupid app so you can make money?" And Ben is like, "Oh, I just haven't gotten around to it," And Herschel thinks he's being weak, but actually Ben isn't being weak. He's being sentimental. So what? I'm saying that to say that I don't think that's not the antagonistic force in his life. The antagonistic force in his life is Herschel. So, and then Herschel's antagonistic force in his life is Ben. So I'm like, am I supposed to like Ben after he tries to get Herschel deported? and am I supposed to like Herschel after he does get Ben deported? So I had a hard time connecting with either character. I thought for me the concept was fantastic, but the execution got a little funky, which I was kind of surprised at. This movie was written by Simon Rich, and Simon Rich is the same person who wrote the short story Sellout that this is based on. Simon Rich he's a fantastic writer apparently. So this is the same guy who wrote Inside Out, and he's a writer for Saturday Night Live. So he's got a long
history of
list
comedy.
He writes for The Simpsons, Saturday Night Live. Yeah, he's got a great resume there. I was surprised at the structure. I thought the cat and mouse thing with Ben versus Herschel would be a lot shorter. And when I realized it was going to be the whole movie, I'm like, I guess we need a sequel or something so we can actually get to the point. Because I thought we would have moved on.
I can say the strong point in this movie is the acting of Seth Rogen.
Oh, Seth Rogen, yes, absolutely killed it.
And I enjoyed this because of the sweetness it was. The initial idea of it being sweet. I do understand when you say with the cat and mouse thing that it could have been, shortened and stuff like that, because it's like, get to the point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I kept wanting to like the characters because they are so well written and they are so interesting. But each character was, they're being an asshole to the other character, and then the movie ended. I'm like, oh,
yeah. So
that's it.
Let me tell you what we already told you guys about Boop Bop app that Seth Rogen's Ben character was working on, and he didn't release it. So Herschel's thing was, he's like, I'm gonna be better than you. I'm gonna be successful out here in this world. I don't need you and all the stuff. So he's like,
well, yes, kind of. But Herschel was motivated because, again, his wife, all she wanted was that headstone,
exactly.
And she got the headstone, but the gravesite, there's like a big highway paved over it, and there's terrible overgrowth and trash,
and there's a Russian billboard there.
Yeah, there's a billboard for Russian vodka, and so this motivates him. He's like, we've got to tear that billboard down. Ben's like, no, you can't do that because the billboard's owned by some big faceless company, right? You can't just go fight the people that are putting up the billboard, because that's what Herschel wants to do. He's just gonna start punching people to get the billboard down. So Herschel's like, okay, fine. If these are the rules for 2021, great, or 2020, whenever this movie's based. He's like, great. Then I will raise $200,000 so I can cut this thing down. And so this is the motivation that both characters have, that they both want to be successful businessmen, and they both want money. But Herschel goes about it in a very different way, which I think you're about to talk about right now.
Yeah, he punches the construction workers they're just there to do a job and put up the Russians' vodka sign, and he gets into a fight, and then you get arrested. Ben gets arrested with him because he's trying to stop it, and that goes on his criminal record. And because of that, Ben can't sell his app to the investor company because he has a record, and there's like, it'll be a stain. And the guy who's interviewing him is from the Lonely Island. I like that guy. Is Jorma? Yeah, Jorma.
But the Beep Boop app is an app that is supposed to find out what products are, or how products are ethically sourced. So now they're like, oh, you can't sell this app, or we can't buy this app from you because the source is unethical. You've got a violent criminal record now for fighting in a graveyard. So you can't sell the app. But that's pretty funny. But see, that kind of like that
initially has like with the terror within them is between them. It's like I can't get my app sold because I got arrested fighting with you. And he's like, you're weak, and you're a disgrace to our family name. You allowed this stuff to happen and all that stuff. When he initially thought that until the end,
right? Well, he thought, and the reason why he thought that was because Ben talked about everything except his family.
Yeah,
he talked about the seltzer water. He talked about Ubers. He talked about Alexa. He talked about everything except his family. And Herschel's like, so, what about your family? What's going on there? Your parents are dead? Like, what happened? Explain their death to me. And Ben doesn't want to talk about it. And so he thinks, and also Ben has lost his religion. He's no longer a practicing Jewish person anymore. He doesn't practice Judaism. So Herschel is like, oh, you're a disgrace, and this, that, and the other. But of course, we learn that they're a lot more similar, and we learn that there's reasons why Ben has shifted away from religion and things like that. So, that stuff is interesting, but I feel like it could have been set up a little bit better.
Oh, I'm laughing at this part. when Herschel is on the rise of selling his pickles, getting popular, and Ben is trying to every which way to try to ruin Herschel's, come up. The last one that he did before he ran Ben basically off out of the country, or wanted to leave the country, when they went to that convention, and Ben came in there in disguise, and he's like, I can't see you. yes, the question for the shapely woman up there, and he said, well, what's your views on Christianity and all this stuff? And then he said, of course, Mary was a prostitute and all this other stuff. And then he said, who believes in Jesus Christ, you are an idiot or something like that. And then they started chasing him and throwing stuff at him. I was like, yeah, that's the kicker right there, you know.
Well, the thing is, before that, Herschel was at that convention, and he was saying all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay. Racist, sexist, and people were like, okay, all right, okay. You know, it's kind of like, and you know, what's funny is he got there only because Ben tricked him to go there, thinking that, you know, he put his foot in his mouth. But of course, these days, any outrageous thing will have some sort of following. So he's like, yes, everyone knows that women are here to serve. They've got small hands made for serving food. And even the women in the crowd were like, yeah, I guess we do small hands. I was like, what?
And then he's like, and of course, you know, they have the vagina to serve human out. And then they're like, yeah.
It's true.
I was like, oh, wow.
But then of course they found the line, which is religion and Christianity, and that seemed to be the line where no one would agree with that. So.
Remember when
he got chased?
Remember she asked him, you should run for office. He's like, yes, I want to run for office. And he's like, I want to run for the biggest office in the land.
I would like biggest office in America. Huge office.
Right.
I was just thinking of Trump right there for some reason.
Well, I think that was the point. I think Seth Rogen and the film Simon Rich, I think they were trying to make a point that that's how a lot of politicians get their start. They say something outrageous and crazy and, you know, uncouth, and they gain a following. And so, yeah, it seems so every time Ben tries to trip up Herschel, Herschel seems to recover in a way that Ben isn't expecting. And that's one of the ways in that, you know, Herschel will say something outrageous and sexist, but then, yeah, there'll be like some hyper-conservative people who are like, yeah. And they're like, what do you think about taxes? And he's like, if the government taxes me, I punch them in the face. And they're like, yeah. Right. And then Herschel's trying to sell these pickles, and Ben calls the health department on them, and he's like, hey, you know, these pickles they're dirty. You know, they're made from like goop off the roof. And they're like, oh my god, they're all natural. They're so made with rainwater. You know, and then he gets some interns, which he's like, wait, we don't pay our interns? They're like, no, you don't have to pay them. He's like slaves? Like slaves?
He's like, no.
They're like, not sure. Like, kind of. But sorry. It's all good. Everything Ben does to try and trip up Herschel seems to recover, which I think is probably a political stance. And he even says, like, Herschel's like, the only thing I know in America is if you say something wrong in America, you know, that's it. You only get one chance. And Ben's like, yeah, that's definitely not true. Yeah, you get a million chances.
You can say as many things, and then the court of public opinion is widely vast.
Yeah, there's always someone who will agree with you. Yeah. Some weirdo who will agree with you. And again, I think that was, you know, Seth Rogen and company making a point about that.
And by the end of this film, like we say, you know, he with all these things happen, you know, he tries to. That was the last camel that, you know, broke the back or whatever.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, not the last camel. Sorry.
The camels aren't stacked on top of each other or nothing. So.
That straw that broke the camel's back with the religion thing. And Herschel's like, I'm going to escape to Canada. You can take me to Canada. I know you don't want me to be here. And you'll never have to see me again and all this stuff. So they travel to Canada and to try to hide away. They get there and they try to hide away from the deportation at the border. And Ben has a heart-to-heart with Herschel and talks to him and saying that I did this. I'm one who called in the health department. I did this. I'm the dude who stood up and asked a question about the Christianity and stuff. I hope you'll be able to forgive me. Punches him in the face several times. And then he's like, "You're disgrace. How could you do this?" And he takes his identity. He cuts his beard off. And he takes his clothes and he's like, "What's up, dudes?"
Right. They swap positions. So Ben gets deported, and Herschel takes over Ben's identity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I supposed to like Herschel for that? I was like, that's really messed up. I don't know. I feel like that solidified him as almost like a villain. I was like, geez, okay.
Yeah, they're both were villains. You know, you don't do this to people, whether they're family or friends or whatever. As a nice person, you're not supposed to do this stuff.
And that's where I struggled with the movie. I would have liked to see them be antagonistic for a minute, but then have to work together, you know? Because clearly it was obvious that they could work together well, right? Ben knew the modern world, he knew tech, and Herschel knew business, and he knew how to sell pickles. Yeah, so it's like obviously they got to get together at some point, right? It's two pieces to the same puzzle, and they do, but it's like the last line in the last scene in the movie. Yeah. So I was kind of disappointed at that. I didn't know who to root for, and I ended up not rooting for anyone.
Now, I know we told a lot of things about this, people, but if you make your decision how you feel about each of these characters that Seth Rogen played perfectly, he played them perfectly now. But I'm gonna give my rating on this film, and based because of like how the sweetness of it, it was funny. It was funny. Okay, and the acting, I'm giving this a 7.5.
7.5. Okay, I think that's very reasonable because I was gonna give it a 7. I liked the concept of this film better than I liked the film. I feel like I can kind of tell it's a short story because the movie kind of ended like 30 minutes in, and then we just watch, an hour of them like hating on each other and chasing after each other, like Tom and Jerry type of deal. And I didn't find that nearly as interesting as I think the movie thought it was. So I gave it a 7, but I did, like you said, I liked Seth Rogen's performance a lot. Herschel and Ben were two very distinct characters. They had a lot in common, right? Which I think was kind of the point of the film, that even though they came from different times, they were still blood relatives. They had a lot in common, but they're two very distinct characters, and I never got confused as to who was who, even after they, shaved their beards and looked identical. But again, I like the setup a lot. I liked how when he got out of the brine, they were like, "Hey, so the brine thing preserved you. Don't worry about how that's possible. And by the way, you've got one living relative, and he just happens to live in this same city, and he just happens to be your same age, and he just happens to look just like you. Don't worry about that." I like how the movie just breezes through all that stuff. I thought that was super smart. But I feel like the smarts didn't follow up. I thought I would have gotten a smarter movie overall, and so that's why I give it a 7.
Agreed. I mean, agreed with everything you said, but yeah, my rating is 7.5. Devin's rating is 7.
I will say, if you've got HBO Max, I feel like this is a no-brainer. Go ahead and check it out.
Good.
I can recommend it. It's not too long. It's nice and short, so you can breeze right through it. Great performances. If you've got HBO Max, it's a no-brainer. I say go watch it. I can recommend this movie. Yeah. Even though I didn't think it was the greatest movie, I can recommend it mostly because I think other people might feel more like you did, right? More moved by the movie. But for me, it didn't do as much as I was expecting it to.
Right. Well, people, that is our review on An American Pickle.
In old country, we have saying.
I'm sure this has aged well.
If man does not throw punch, it is because this man secretly had polio arm. Do something, Ben. Throw your punch!
You know they cured polio, right? A guy named Jonas Salk.
Was he Jew?
He was.
Yes.
Next up on the chopping block of movies to review is Disney Plus's straight-to-streaming movie, Luca.
We do not go anywhere near the surface. Got it? Everything good is above the surface. Walking, air, the sky, clouds, the sun. Whoa, don't look at it. Just kidding. Definitely look at it.
Have you ever gone to the human town?
Yeah. I'm kind of an expert.
Luca here, it's Disney. It's a Disney Pixar movie, and it's based in Italy, and I think it's based in like 1930s, 40s Italy, maybe.
You know, I wasn't sure what year this movie was based in, but then after a while, I was like, you know what? I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
I didn't really look too hard, but like, yeah, all the Vespa stuff, I'm like, Vespas feel kind of modern, but you know, I could be totally wrong on that. So yeah, it does have like a timeless Disney feel.
Yeah, and it takes place in a city outside of Rome, so it's in Italy, and it's about a kid by the name of Luca, and but it's not just a normal kid. He is a sea monster. Disney Pixar's always have a theme of teaching kids things or teaching adults things too, especially like with Soul, about life lessons and things of that nature. And for me, I guess the lesson in this is be who you're meant to be, or that type of lesson there.
Right. Be comfortable with who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Comfortable who you are.
Because in this film, Luca is a sea monster, but when he leaves the sea, he becomes human, or at least he looks human.
Yeah.
So as long as he's dry, he looks like a little human boy.
Yep. And he meets another kid by the name of Alberto. And Alberto lives on an island where him and his father they left the sea, and they live on there together. And Luca has this sense of wonder, like, what is up there? He's just so tired of being like this sheep boy, but not for sheep, but sheep for, that collects fishes and that makes
he herds fish.
Herds fish. And so he just always wondered what's going on up there. And he meets Alberto, and Alberto shows him a different life up there for a little bit. And first Luca was scared, and then he went back down there, and he went back up. And I think the funny character for this is when his mom found out where he was. she called his uncle, and his uncle is from the deep.
Right, yeah, it's like from the deep.
Those fish that can't see, but they only have the little the light in front of them.
Bioluminescent thing that hangs over.
And this dude is like, you're gonna like it down here. You'll be able to, eat whale carcasses that falls, and sometimes it just falls in your mouth.
Yeah. He's like disgusting because his inside, you can see his insides because he's translucent. It's like, and he has like a heart attack at one point, and they're like, punch your uncle's heart, please. And Luca's like, boop, boop, boop. It's like, harder, please. Like, wow. And he's like, oh, thank you. Too much oxygen in the water.
It's too much oxygen up there.
Luca, I need you to punch his heart. That's right, the red thing. Punch it harder. Oh.
Thanks for that.
He finds out about this up there world with Alberto, and he starts hanging out with Alberto a lot. And Alberto doesn't know a lot of things about human life. He's just been up there,
Well, he positions himself as the expert on the dry land, right? And as far as Luca's concerned, he is the expert because he's been up there way longer than Luca has. So he explains things to Luca, and they're all kind of weird and messed up. So Luca's like looking at the stars. He's like, "Wow, what is that?" And he's like, that's anchovies. Those are all anchovies, and they're all being watched over by the big anchovy up there in the sky, or what does it call it? Big catfish?
Big anchovy in the sky and moon.
Yeah, big catfish. And he's like, I touched it once. Felt like a fish. And Luca's like, wow. And Luca and Alberto bond over their interest and love over a Vespa. Yeah. Like the Vespa they think is some kind of magical machine where you just sit on it and it just takes you wherever you want to go. And they're like, yeah, let's just get out of here and live our life on our terms. And they think the only way they can get the Vespa is if they go to the human town. And it's a place that not even Luca, not even Alberto's been.
Yeah, Alberto's haven't been there. Luca's grandmother has been up to the surface a couple of times, which has kind of intrigued him about the stories of being up there in the first place. But he decides...
She seems to be pushing him towards the surface, too, which is interesting.
Yeah. By that time, he runs away with Alberto to go up there to the surface because they were going to send him away. They're going to get him get down there, and he's going to spend the summer in the deep with his uncle. I'm like, ugh.
Right. Luca's mom was absolutely horrified that Luca, when she found out that Luca was spending time with the humans. And we learn later why exactly she was horrified, and it's because the local town is obsessed with catching sea monsters.
Killing.
So like
killing them.
Yeah, exactly. They've got a big fountain in the middle of the town with a man like gutting a sea monster, and she's like, do not go up to the surface. They are not your friends. They don't want to be your friend. They don't like you. So she's trying her best to protect her son from going to the surface. So when she finds out that he's been going to the surface, she's like, nope, you're going to go down deeper. You're going to go down to the deep to live with your uncle. And that's the end of it. And Luca is like, hell no. So
He's like, I got to get out of here. So he goes with his friends off Alberto. They get up there. They get into a little bit of chaos there in the town. And they meet this douchey. He's not an adult. Okay.
Yeah, his age is not clear. At first I thought he was an adult, but then apparently I think he might be like maybe 19 maybe or something like that. Like he's like a younger guy. But he's got like a little peach fuzz mustache and all that stuff, so
Ciao, hey.
Ercole.
Aren't you a little old, Ercole?
Senora, I'm 16.
You said that last year.
But this year is true.
It's kind of hard to tell what age he is, but yeah, he's clearly like a little asshole.
Yeah, he's the bully that runs the streets and stuff. Like he has a Vespa and Alberto, and they think that's cool. They think it's cool and everything, and they almost accidentally knock over and break this guy's Vespa. And then, that's when he starts picking on him, and he's about to put his face in the water. Now, remember, when these sea monsters touch water, at any point they turn back into their skin turns back into scales like a sea monster. But this girl comes down the hill just with her cart. She's running through, and she kind of saves Luca from getting bullied
and certainly from getting dunked into the fountain in front of everyone.
And her name was Julia. So the whole thing about Julia is she wants to win a race for and this is all happening in the summertime because she spends time with her father and her mother in this town away from school. Mm-hmm. And this competition is very important because you win the Vespa, right?
No, you win some money.
Money, yeah.
But it's not the money you win isn't even enough to get a new Vespa. It's enough to get like a little crappy Vespa. Yeah. But she wants to win not because of the money. She's not interested in the money. She just wants to shut up the bully guy, the bully character.
Yeah.
And this competition is a triathlon, which is important because part of a triathlon is swimming. So these two guys, Alberto and Luca, cannot get into the water. So they're like, yeah, we can't do the triathlon by ourselves. We got to break this up. So they all decide that Lucy will do the swimming and they'll do the other parts.
Yeah, her name was Julia, but they called her Lucy.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
They're called her Lucy. They're called Lucy.
Oh, okay.
And they broke it up into parts of where Alberto would eat and Luca would ride the bike for the race, and she would swim.
Right. The eating component is kind of funny because the triathlon it's sponsored by some kind of like pasta company. So they just randomly add one leg of the triathlon is you just eating pasta. And the problem with the eating pasta is the little girl, every year she can't win because after eating the pasta, you have to eat the pasta in the middle. It's like after you're done swimming, you got to eat the pasta. And after she eats the pasta, she throws up everywhere. So she can never, she can never finish the triathlon, which is why she hasn't been able to shut up the bully.
Now, here's the thing about Alberto, right? Alberto, his father has been away. His father just kind of just jetted, which to me, I think his father was killed.
Yeah, it's clear early on that Alberto is lying about living in that tower with his father, because we never see his father, and we don't really see too many like remnants of his father either. I think there's like only like one bed. So like you spend most of the movie kind of curious as to like why Alberto has been abandoned. But yeah, it would seem like either Alberto's father has fully become a human and is living a human life in somewhere in the human town or in Italy somewhere, or you're right, he's been killed. Yeah. And the irony of it is the little girl, her father, hunts sea monsters. Yep. So maybe the little girl's father might have killed Alberto's father. We don't know.
There is a cat there. And this cat looks just like the dad, man. It was funny because the cat did not trust them, the boys. The cat be like every single time, and it'll fight Luca, and the water spill on Luca, and Luca had to dry himself off, and because he turns him back into the sea monster and stuff, and it was really funny seeing with that.
Right, they had to essentially keep the cat quiet by feeding it fish. So every time the cat's about to attack, they like shove a fish into the cat's mouth, and the cat's like, all right.
All right, the cat's like,
yeah,
that's what it does. So Alberto builds a bond with Julia's father, to where Alberto helps Julia's father fish, and they really know how to fish because he was fishing in the wrong parts. And Alberto and Luca, especially Alberto, he was like, the fish ain't around in this time of day. They're over there. Right. And they come back with a whole boat of fish and stuff. And a lot of things happen throughout this film where they have to sleep outside. Right. And one moment it actually rained, and they turned back into sea monsters when she opened the door, and she was like saying good morning and everything like that. And he said, the sky was leaking last night.
Right.
You have to dry off. So they went down there, they tried to dry it off, and the dad came through the door, and he wasn't looking and stuff. The only person that saw them as fish was the cat.
Right, that's the cat. And that's kind of like a big thing that happens in the film, where they're all these hijinks of them trying to dry themselves off and accidentally getting wet and making sure that people don't see it. Like at one point, Alberto and Luca were on the boat, and the boat got splashed, and Luca dodged the splash, but Alberto didn't, and he turned straight into a sea monster, and so they had to throw a towel over him, and it was like a whole thing. So
that was because the bully came over there trying to find them, and he purposely hit the boat. Oh no, his friend accidentally hit the boat and stuff like that. And but Luca at that point, he really is starting to have a bond with Julia, and Alberto's feeling left out, of course.
Right. Luca has the bond with the little girl because the little girl loves to learn, and so does Luca. And they kind of established that early because Luca is super interested in the above world, and he's like, oh, what is this little thing that I found? And he found like an alarm clock or something that's from the above world. So yeah, he likes to learn, and the little girl loves to learn too. She seems to be into astronomy.
And he tells Alberto about all the stuff that Lucy was telling him, and he's like, those aren't fish, those are stars, just like the sun, and we're on a planet called Earth, and we're revolving around it and all this stuff. And he says, she's gonna let me borrow more books, and Alberto's like, she doesn't know what she's talking about and all this other stuff, and so he's getting a little jealous and stuff. And flash forward to that moment where Alberto gets kicked off of the boat and stuff. They start not at that moment. They go up to the top of this hill where Luca's training, a montage. Really, they're all training in montages where Alberto's eating, Luca's racing, and they get to the top of the hill, and Alberto has a little, a hissy fit, and he's like, I'll show you how to go down this hill. And they get on this bike, and they're racing, and they're on the bike together. And he's like, no, stop. And they crash into the water. And that's where the bully is over there.
Right.
And they're like,
because Alberto is a bit of a show off, and now he's being kind of shown up by the little girl because Luca's interest is more into her and learning, and less into the antics of Alberto. So Alberto's like, well, let me show you how to bike. You're not doing it right. I'll show you how to bike. And right, they crash. And the bully guy's in the water, and go ahead.
Lucy comes down the hill, and they're fighting. They get up, and basically Alberto he tests Lucy's commitment.
Well, he wants to split them up. He wants to break up their friendship because he thinks Luca's his friend, not Lucy's friend, not the little girl's friend.
So he dips himself in the water. And of course he turns scaly, and then she's like, monster, and then he's like, see, Luca, she wouldn't accept us, and then he's like, come on, and then Luca turns around and said, yeah, monster. I was like, oh, Luca, man, that's fucked up.
Right.
See, I knew this would happen. Monster! Did you hear that? This way.
Luca.
Yeah, Luca has to make a decision over where his alliance is going to lie. Is he going to go back with Alberto and be a sea monster in the water again, or is he going to keep up the ruse that he's actually a human? And so he decides he makes a split-second decision to side with the little girl, and he pretends like he's a human, and he pretends like he's horrified at his best friend's present. And Alberto's super hurt by that, and he swims off into the water. While the bully and the rest of the town are throwing spears at him and all kind of stuff, and they chase him out of the town.
Now, at this moment, they go back up to her apartment, and Luca is talking that I can do this, I can do that. We don't need him. We need him and stuff like that. And he's talking. So she tries to calm him down by spraying water on him, and then he blocks it. His head's turning to scale. She's like, of course. Fish in the sky. When you said fish in the sky, you're a sea monster too. He decides to leave, and he tries to apologize to Alberto on the island, and it works. And they get back there to the island to where to run this triathlon. He's like, I'm gonna do this, okay, no matter what. And Julia's like, don't do it, and all this other stuff, and they're getting ready to start the swimming, and he gets into this old-timey scuba diver heavy stuff, and they're doing it, and he's at the bottom of the sea while everyone's swimming at the top, and it starts cracking because under pressure, and his face. It's a whole good, awesome scene.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is, of course, the bully and his two friends, they're competing in the triathlon too. They're cheating, and so the bully has one of his little minions out there swimming, but they douse him in olive oil first, so he'll cut through the water really fast. And he's all disgusting and nasty, swimming in the water, with olive oil all over his body. But then all the fish decide to attack him and eat him, so he can't finish the race. But Luca gets like second or third or something like that. But the bully's minion, he comes in last.
Within this race, while all this happening, by the way, Luca's mom and dad is on land.
Right.
They came up on land.
Right. There's like a little B plot where Luca's parents, they're so afraid because Luca ran away. So they're like, I bet he went to the town. So they're going to the town, and they're running around splashing water on every child they find. They're dunking them underwater, spraying them, and
literally kicking their ass.
Yeah, exactly. And by this point in the movie, they've been antagonizing all the kids. So whenever they show up, all the kids are like, "Oh my God, no!" They're afraid of them.
They look human. Because they get on land. They look human too. And during this part, there's a race that's happening after they eat the food, and so he's just trying to do it for himself to get that Vespa. He wants that daggone Vespa. And so he's biking up the hill, and he's about to pass the bully guy, and at this moment he passes his mom and his dad. He's like, "I'm sorry, Mom." Blah, blah, blah. It's starting to rain.
Right.
and it's starting to rain, and we all know what happens with rain. So he had to stop underneath this overhang, and the bully, he basically is like, "I'm about to win." And then all of a sudden, you see with an umbrella coming up there, Alberto to help out his friend because he forgave him and he really wants to see him win this. So he's trying to bring an umbrella, but Alberto's like, not Alberto, but the bully's like, "Nah, he ain't gonna help him." So he trips up his friend. The umbrella flies off, and it's all slow motion and stuff, and everyone sees that he is a monster. And then Luca was gonna come out there, and he's like, "No, don't." Alberto's like, "Don't do it." The bully was like, "Sea monster, attack him," and stuff. He's like, "No." So he did it so much, he pedaled and stuff. He saved his friend. They're both running down there as sea monsters and stuff, and they cross the finish line. And well,
the thing is, the bully he could have won, but he was distracted by attacking the sea monster. So instead of just like being like, "Excuse me," and going and winning the race, he's chasing after Luca and he's chasing after Alberto, trying to get the sea monster. Not unlike the rest of the town, because again, the town is like obsessed with catching sea monsters. But like you said, throughout their little chase, they end up winning the race anyway.
Yeah,
Luca and Alberto won the race.
Alberto, and which means, if Luca and Alberto win the race, the whole team win because they actually, at the end, they really wanted to be a team at that point. And then,
but the only way they were accepted was the father, the little girl's father, was like, he ended up liking. He's actually he's a huge guy. He's big and intimidating. He's only got one arm, and it looks like maybe he lost that arm fighting a sea monster. He didn't. He was just born like that, and he ends up really liking the kids, and he doesn't seem to care whether or not they're sea monsters. He's like,
nope, because
good.
He looks at them. He looks at their content, not them as monsters because of how they look.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't really care how they look, but he knows that they're good kids. And he's like, "Hey, these two guys, they won the race, and I think it's okay." And he's like the biggest, scariest guy there, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I guess it's okay then."
Yep. And then there are two other people up there that's living among the humans, and they decide to let down their umbrellas and let the rain come on. They turn back into sea monsters. Like, oh, okay. But everyone starts to accept.
But the two people, one of them was Luca's grandma. They kept
Luca's grandma.
They kept running into these two old ladies, walking around the city. They bump into them, and they'll accidentally eat the ice cream, and they were kind of like a little running joke. But it turns out one of them was Luca's grandma as a human. And so, she let down her umbrella, and she's a sea monster too, and everyone seems to accept them. And the town seems to have changed their ways from their anti-sea monster stance to a, I guess, accepting sea monster stance.
Yeah. Except for the bully. The bully got, he wanted to jump him still, but his crew got tired of being bossed around by him. Right. So they tossed him into the fountain and wet his underwear.
Right. Well, they wet his cashmere sweater because he didn't want that thing to get wet, and it got wet.
So the kids, they were able to get the Vespa, and they decided to stay there on top of the surface with the humans. So there's the thing though, that Luca wanted to learn more, and she was going back to school because the summer was ending. Luca's thing was he really wanted to go to school with her, but it was a surprise to where his parents allowed him to go to school with Lucy and learn as much as he wanted to. And it was a nice little emotional scene between Alberto and Luca at the train station.
Right. Luca's parents kind of came to the, I don't know, not realization, but I guess they came to accept the fact that not everyone will accept them or their son, but some people might. So they send him, they let him go off to school with the little girl.
If you've seen the little the animation, the little 2D animation, in credits, it's him like going to school. He's dressed in a school outfit.
Oh, okay, cool.
And he's with Lucy's mom, So yeah, he's going out into the world. The movies just basically says people be yourself.
Right.
Be yourself. Be who you want to be. Be yourself, and don't judge people just because they look different than you.
I will say this movie surprised me on a lot of different ways. One, in that it's free, and it's gotten better reviews than Cruella de Vil. So, and Cruella de Vil is not free right now. You've got to pay for it. Hold on a second. My dog is on the bed. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, I remember. This movie did surprise me because it's gotten better reviews than Cruella de Vil, and Cruella de Vil you got to pay for Disney, and this comes with the Disney Plus subscription, so that's interesting, and a lot of people are saying this is better than Cruella de Vil. I haven't seen Cruella de Vil yet because of that paywall, but another way this movie surprised me is that this movie was a little more kid aimed than I was expecting.
Really?
Like,
yeah, I expected that.
Pixar usually, like Soul, Pixar usually has a lot for the adults, and I found less for the adults in this movie and more for kids. For Pixar, this was the most kid-angled Pixar movie I've seen in a long time. Maybe since like one of the
Cars, man.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe since Cars, but Cars is what, 10 years old. So it's been a while.
I think it's way more than 10.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've seen such a kid-focused Pixar movie, and Cars is not considered one of Pixar's best. It's actually considered, especially Cars 2, it's considered one of their worst. So yeah, I was kind of surprised at that. I thought we'd get more like there'd be more mature themes going on, but it is just like you said, being yourself and going to school and things like that. So that was surprising for me that it was so kid focused.
Yeah, it was still refreshing to see because our inner kids are screaming for stuff like this when we do see it.
Absolutely.
I don't think my inner kid will ever grow up to not liking stuff like this. And I think that's the wonder of Disney. Disney has the power, unlike any other animation studio, to make you feel that way all the time.
Yeah. And one of the other power of Disney and Pixar is their budget, because this movie is gorgeous. It's got a lot of beautiful color. The animation is tippy top notch. Like no one's approaching this level of animation on any other company. I can't think of anything. As much as I liked how the Mitchells versus the Machines looked, I mean, this looked better. This was a much more. You can tell Pixar's been doing this for a long time, and you can kind of tell Sony's trying to play catch up with their animation. Not that the animation's bad, but this is
they definitely trying to play catch up because they feel like they had get a little bit ahead of themselves with Spider-Man, into Spider-Verse, and then it's like, all right, we could use some of that little bit of that flavor for Mitchells versus Machines. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we could take over Disney. You know what I'm saying?
But there's a swagger that Pixar has with their animation. Like they're just showing off with all their water animations and all of that. God. Like they're just showing off. And I liked the Italian setting. I liked the accents. I like the culture. That was a lot of fun.
So because of that, because of all the positive things about this movie, it wasn't too long either.
Nope. It was perfect size. Yep. Perfect.
And the little
pacing, awesome.
The little end credit scene, real quick, before I give my rating, was the uncle down in the deep. He's just chilling. He's chilling and he's talking. He's like, I don't see why people don't like it down here. To myself, and while he's talking about how he likes the deep, a whale carcass comes down. He's like, good, tasty. and then he's like, you know what I mean? And then it's one of those little fish that Luca would herd that's down there. He's like, he starts scooting off to the side because he don't want to hear what he's talking about. He wants to go back up.
Right. One of Luca's fish in the beginning when he was herding fish. One of Luca's fish was like Luca in that he wanted to go off and explore. And it seems like that fish went to the deep and found Luca's uncle, and he's like, I'm going back home.
Exactly. He's like, this dude's boring. He just sits here and eats wild carcasses, and it's dark down here. I'm leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
This movie, I am giving this movie, because of the animation style and everything, I'm giving it a 9.
Wow, a 9. Okay.
I mean, Pixar can't fail, man, when it comes to how it looks. Now, the reason I didn't give it a 10 is because, it didn't have really too much for me as an adult, whatever in it, but I can appreciate the lessons in it for children, and I can appreciate the fact that it looks so beautiful.
Yeah, I love the animation. I liked the Italian theme. I liked how we got a little bit of their culture in there. I love how Pixar does that. It'll be like a little history lesson or like a little cultural lesson. I really like that kind of stuff. But like you said, this film doesn't have a lot, at least not in my eyes, for an adult. It's very much kid focused. So I don't think I can give it a 9, but I will give it an 8. But I did like the animation, and I also like that it was free. It was free if you got Disney Plus. And so, hey, there's a lot of positive things. This is an easy recommendation. It's easy to recommend this movie. So
now, would you say this is a movie that you put on in the background while you vacuum? Is it that?
It is such a simple movie. It's not like a super complex movie. You kind of could put it on, go to the bathroom, and come back and not miss too much. But what you will miss is the awesome animation, and you will miss the acting. I think is great. So no, I think there's a lot to see. I think there's a lot to carry you through.
Okay, cool. Well, I gave it a 9, and Devin gave it an 8, and that is our review for Luca that is streaming right now on Disney Plus. Go check it out.
Good. Now hang on.
All right, everyone, that is the episode right here for Mostly Wrong Opinions. Again, I am Tyrone, and you can find me on my band's Instagram at YURP_ATL. That is YURP_ATL. And just before I did this, I was just on streaming Ratchet and Clank on my Twitch, twitch.tv/YURPNationGaming. I'm having a ball. You should come over there and visit. Check me out, follow me on there. And please follow me on Europe Nation Reactions. I post there every day, reactions from music videos to video games, all that awesome stuff. Follow me there, and you can find me right here on Mostly Wrong Opinions.
And I am Devin. I've got a personal Instagram at DevinHarris29. Me and Tyrone have a TikTok. That is at Mostly Wrong Opinions on TikTok. Oh, yeah. Yep, that's it. That's his weekly dance. Yeah. You can also find some of my writing at geeksleeprepeat.com, and you can also find me right here on Mostly Wrong Opinions with the dancing machine.
Yeah, exactly. Please do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you stay updated with everything we do right here on Mostly Wrong Opinions. And remember, you can leave a like or dislike, whatever it is your opinion. But just remember, it's mostly wrong. Peace.